Hello, welcome to Influencers, where we bring you the people that influence our city, our community, and our state. Today, we're so honored to have Senate Majority Leader Kelvin Atkinson.
All right,
Kelvin, how is it, man?
Great, man. Thanks for having me.
Wow. What can we do to get you to be a Raiders fan?
You know, I'm black and silver and black and white
You
most
bleed
days.
it.
That's right, I bleed it.
I see your Facebook. I see you bleed
right,
it.
That's right.
That's awesome. And of course, right before we started, we talked about that stadium and economic
That's right.
development. You were in the thick of it. So
That's right.
thank you for that. Tell us about yourself. How did you get to Nevada? What inspires you about Nevada, and how did you get here?
It's a long story. I'll make short. Certainly, I'm sure it'll be chronicled at some point during this session. I'm hearing. I was attending Howard University in Washington D.C. While attending there, my father was murdered. I received a phone call from my mom at 5 a.m. in the morning. My grandparents lived in Los Angeles, where my dad was, and they moved here right after. I tried to go back to school, wasn't doing well emotionally, so moved here with my grandparents temporarily, and kind of been here ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Who's had the greatest influence on you, both personally and work-wise?
I've had a few people that entered my life, and at a dark time, and mentioning my dad, and some people picked up on that, and some folks at the county kind of come to mind, Cheryl Miller, and Terry Lamorelia, and a few others, and being politically, Barbara and Barbara Buckley and Billy Vasiliadis are folks that I kind of lean to most of the time on decisions I need to make.
That's excellent. And tell us a little bit about your journey to become Senate Majority Leader.
Yeah, it's a blessed one. It's one I never thought about. I was in the assembly. Speaker Perkins likes to laugh and talk to me all the time about me being really, really, really quiet my freshman session. I didn't say much, and so they wondered what was kind of going on with me. But I remember getting a lot of advice that session from Terry Lamorelia and a few people. Go up there, put your head down, and learn. And I know the dynamics have kind of changed a little bit with term limits, and people kind of aren't that way. But when I came in, that wasn't the case. And so I never, ever dreamed to be here. It was not an ambition of mine, not by any means. I just enjoy what I do. And I've been doing it for 16 years now in the legislature. And I just enjoy it. I was afforded and blessed with the opportunity for my caucus to vote for me to be here. And so I don't want to let them down. I want to work as hard as I can to prove to them that they picked the right person. And
do you sense the history of the moment? I mean, it's no secret. You became Senate Majority Leader being exactly who you are, and proud of it. And do you feel that moment?
Oh, absolutely. The moment itself has occurred a few times, being the first African-American LGBT person. I was the president of Council of State Governments, National and the West, and I held that title in both, being the first African-American, believe it or not. Council of State Government's been around for 85 years and never had an African-American.
Wow.
And so to break the glass on both of those was quite the achievement. Some of the stuff you don't think about until it happens. A lot of people don't even know that I'm the first African-American to serve in both houses, the Assembly and the Senate. So I'm the first to do that, and that's kind of been out there for quite some time. And so they're honors. It's, again, nothing that I look forward to. It's not the reason I wanted to. I've always wanted to be judged on my merit and my work.
Absolutely, but it's important because guess what? Yeah. There's some young people watching us, and we're the faces that they thought they can't get to certain positions, and now because of you, they can.
Absolutely, and I get those messages all the time. People would be overwhelmed. Some of them bring me to tears. I get them from moms and dads of other LGBT kids who thought, once they came out that their lives were over, and so it's
called hope.
Absolutely, I had an aunt. I remember listening to my aunt, who I have a strained relationship to with this day, and there's something within me that I've tried to forgive her over the years. But I heard her tell one of, and that was before I came out, and she assumed I was going to be, and she told my grandmother on the phone. She didn't know I was still on, and she said, he's going to be gay and he's never going to be nothing. And so I've always held that for quite some time. And I know what it feels. And so when I am reached out and asked to help somebody's kid, I'm always there.
It's perfect. More with our senator in a moment. Welcome back to Influencers, here with Senate Majority Leader Kelvin Atkinson. Tell us about what the Senate Majority does that people might not even know.
Man, it's funny you asked that question. I was just talking to Speaker Frierson about that last night, and he and I both were at an event just before we came here, and we were talking about that same topic to the audience. And I said I thought I knew everything, being in for 16 years, but there's certainly some things popped up as Majority Leader that I didn't think I made the decision on, from what goes where, what picture goes where, who parks where members sit in certain seats on the floor,
Wow.
what offices they have, what color certain walls are. And I was going, wait a minute, why is everybody asking me to where their parking spots are in the garage? And so those are just some of them. Obviously there's a lot more important things that you get to make, and who's committee chairs, and who's going to be on certain committees, and having a rationale behind that, because you always have members that call you and go, well, why am I on that? Why did you do that? And so you've got to have a reason for it. So there's some tough decisions, but just those minor ones that people think are minor, because you get calls about those too.
But
why
they're
am
important
I
and big
parking
to
here?
somebody.
Or why am I in this office? And why didn't you put, so why am I sitting here on the floor? So you got to answer that stuff too, and those, believe it or not, you can lose a caucus member or two if you don't have the right answers to some of that stuff. And so, just those are just some of the few that I think that are minor to some people, but are kind of big time sometimes.
Way heavy on you, yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears. We're the chamber.
Yes.
We represent small business.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful now that you have a whole perspective of what it means to make payroll,
That's right.
to take risks, to wake up with the phone ringing saying we need this, we need that. You're doing all that.
Yeah.
And so as Senate Majority Leader, what's your perspective and your philosophy going in towards small business?
Yeah. Well, obviously this will be, for me, one of the first sessions that I even have bills on small business. And I do, because I see what it takes, and how there are some obstacles in the way of some small businesses making it. When I got into this, I have a bar lounge downtown, and was told, look, 70% of all bars don't make it in their first year. And I'm going 70%. But it's easy to see why they don't,
That's right.
because there's so many things in the way of people being successful. And so I come from a government background, being in Clark County for 25 years, and then kind of owning my own business. I was told what I was supposed to believe about small business and certain pieces of legislation, and some of that has changed for me, obviously being where I am now, and I'm able to share that with my caucus, and I think you'll see some good things come out of our caucus to help small businesses.
And I'm so grateful that you said that, and then we've had conversations off air, and that's one thing I want to say to you. I mean, you've been so accessible.
Thank you.
And we very much appreciate that. Small business is my passion, and I've already heard from some members. They're a little nervous, but I assured them. I said, listen, from the Senate Majority Leader, he's got a different perspective. He's a business owner now, so he'll be looking out for you guys to the best of his ability, and that's what we want to hear. So
yeah, and people shouldn't be worried about our caucus. I think this is one of the more business-friendly caucuses I've been in. I mean, they get it, and I think, like I said, you'll see some changes, but some good changes for small business.
We'll be back again with our Senate Majority Leader Kelvin Atkinson in a moment. Hello, welcome back to Influencers. Tell us what your priorities are going to be, what you can share with us as far as priorities this upcoming session.
Well, I want to be a little bit cautious on that, and I have been over the last few weeks. Our caucus is going to meet this Saturday for 8 hours to go over all of our priorities. And so I don't want to get too much into that. I've talked to you about what I want to do with some small business stuff. And I forgot to mention that I'm working on a bill with Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall to kind of come up with this kind of like small business ombudsman's office kind of thing. And the governor actually has been supportive of that. I had a discussion with him about that as well. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at. I'm working on the RP RPS with newly appointed Senator Brooks. I was about to say Steve, I'm sorry, Brooks. And so we're working on that to kind of change the RPS and do some better things in our state with renewables. And so those are some of the things, but obviously we'll have a lot more priorities that we're working on as a caucus, and I'll have a little more feedback on that after Saturday.
Yeah. So certainly under my presidency, I've been advocating that business and education actually go hand in hand. You need a educated workforce. You need young people that want to be mechanics. Well, let's certify them, make them the best mechanics we can make them, right? I believe those are the steps to a better education. I'd like to hear from you. How can we improve education in Nevada? Obviously, funding, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, funding's a part of it. We have some folks in our caucus, Mo Dennis and Joyce Woodhouse, who've been kind of working on this stuff a lot longer than I have. Mm-hmm. And so I rely on them to come up with certain policies and have those discussions with the governor's office and some of the other people. What I will tell you then, in conversations that I've had with the governor's office with Speaker Frierson over the last couple of weeks, and we meet quite often, just had a 2.5 meeting the other day with the governor's office and Michelle, is that I know that the governor is really, really stern and want to improve education in the state, wants to find a way to make sure that the classrooms, the money gets to the classrooms, and the teachers.
He ran
are
on
supposed
that.
To, absolutely. And so he's really, really strong on that and really strict about that. And so we're going to work really, really hard with him on that. I do know that the weighted funding system that Dennis is working on needs to be massaged and a few other things. And so we're just going to keep trying to chip away. I think the Governor Sandoval did a pretty good job of that his last time. Kenny Gwynn before him did a pretty good job. And I just think it's a way of chipping away, and I think you'll start to see some improvement over the years.
Yeah. I like the compliments towards Brian Sandoval without hesitation.
Right.
I think that's more needed today. What's wrong with complimenting?
Yeah.
Compliment Obama for the things he did. Compliment even if you're from different parties. I think Brian, did everything he could. I thought he was a great governor, and certainly we're hoping that education can finally, improve.
That's right.
They're going to improve everything.
I was, and I have made no secret about it. I mean, I'm a staunch Democrat, but Sandoval's second term, I voted for him. I think that he was a fine governor. No, we didn't agree on everything.
Of course.
Certainly we had
Not
our
supposed
differences.
to, right?
Absolutely. But as far as being able to listen and being able to go to him with the issues, he was had a very a good open door, and so did Governor Gwynn as well.
Yes, he sure did.
Had open door policies to be able to listen and talk about things, and so he couldn't ask for much more. His focus also was on education, which is passionate to all of us, and so couldn't argue with him there. But I'll always have fond things to say about Governor Sandoval.
Yeah. We'll be back with our last segment with Senator and Majority Leader Kelvin Atkinson. Hello, welcome back. Kelvin, tell us how the Hispanic community can have their voices heard a little more during this session.
It's funny because we had this discussion with the African American caucus and kind of what we do, and I think we're getting there as a caucus, and we have Assemblyman Tyrone Thompson kind of leading our efforts this year. Assemblywoman Medina Neal did it in the past. But I do think that times, and I think more in particular, and I wouldn't say this without it being an honest fact, that the Latin caucus is a little further along than we are, and I commend them for that, and I think they've shown a willingness to work together on certain issues and try to bring their issues to the forefront. And I think a lot of us listen to that. There's few people in my caucus that I lean to, and I know Jason does. And look, I tell everybody my Senate district is half. I mean, it's pretty split down the middle between African Americans, Latino, and Caucasian, and I think the Latinos may be just a little bit higher. Yeah. And so I'm always having a welcoming ear and trying to figure out what we need to do for our minority communities. And it's a blessing, it's an honor to be able to represent my Senate district because it is so diverse.
And I think you and we've always had an open cell phone relationship. You can call me, and of course we're not going to agree on everything, but I don't think we've ever been disrespectful to each other.
That's right.
And I think that's how you should govern, correct?
That's absolutely where you should govern. And like I said, at the end of the day, we have to look at what's going on nationally. And I think we're reminded every single day that we that we are minorities, and that we have to make sure that our voices are heard, and separating ourselves to make sure that voice is heard makes it a lot more complicated.
But you know what? What's going on nationally makes me feel a lot more proud of Nevada.
And if you look at that nationally, and again, I was the national president, so I've kind of made my way around. But even going around, I hear people tell me that. I hear other states and other, what do you guys do? How did you guys do this? And how do you guys work every single day? We look at your legislative body. We have an all-female majority legislature, and we look at those things, and those are not. And I don't care what people tell you. In certain states, that's not achievable.
It's not,
and it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And for us to be the first in the West, with California, who you would think would probably be a little bit better in those regards than us, but I think people look to Nevada, and I think we should be proud of that.
Do you like your relationship with the Hispanic community?
I love my relationship with the Hispanic community. And it's been one that I've been fond of for quite some time. One of my best friends in the legislature was Lucy Flores. As a matter of fact, I'm meeting and having lunch with her tomorrow. She's in town, and so she's always kind of been on me. Oh, but we need to do this, and we need, all right. Okay,
she's not shy about it.
She's not shy about it, and so and she'll be the first to tell you. I've always been a staunch supporter of issues that affect the Hispanic community, and always will be.
Yeah,
always.
So I really appreciate the refreshing, honest answers you've given today and sharing with us. What's the future? What happens after the session with Kelvin Atkinson?
I don't vacation.
You're gonna need it.
It is. People see me traveling sometimes, and I think they think it's all fun and glory, but I'll tell you, 95% of the time when I'm out of town is for business, and so it's very rare that I get the opportunity to take some time off and kind of just turn everything off and kind of enjoy life. And I plan on doing that after session. I don't know if you're asking politically. I don't.
That too, if you want to share.
Look, I enjoy being the Senate Majority Leader until time that changes. I'll let everybody know, but I plan on being where I am.
I want to thank Senate Majority Leader Kelvin Atkinson for joining us today on Influencers, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Until we see each other again, stay motivated and stay inspired.